The Giants head coaching interviews are underway. An update on who's who and a focus on the questions that management better be asking these candidates. Locked on Giants starts right now.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, now the number one sports podcast network in America. My name is Patricia Traina, credentialed member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find all of our written work. And as always, we welcome on in our Blue Crew community members, our everydayers, our newcomers, and everybody in between. Thanks so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And today's episode of Locked On Giants is presented to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Okay, Giant fans, on today's show, we're going to take a look at the updated list of head coaching candidates who have been linked to the Giants. Some of them confirmed, some of them have started their interviews already. So we'll take a look at that. And more importantly, what are the questions that the Giants management brass better be asking these candidates? Because, reputation is one thing, but you better have solid answers to some of these questions. So we'll take a look at some of those questions that need to be asked. Then in segment 2, we're going to continue our look at the Giants position units. We did quarterbacks yesterday. Today, we're going to do tight ends. I'm really going to focus just on Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger. Chris Manhertz was part of the group, pretty much more or less a blocker, but I'm going to focus on Theo and Daniel in that segment. And then in segment 3, guys, you want to stick around for this one. Casey Kreiter did a one-on-one interview with me on Baggy Day on Monday. And before you go poo-pooing and say, he's just a long snapper, you will want to listen to this interview. Trust me. Casey had some really, really good stuff to say about the kicking situation, about working with a left-footed kicker, including, a big change that he said that he and Graham Gano noticed kicking in MetLife Stadium. So this was a really, really good, insightful interview with Casey Kreiter, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So that being said, let's jump right into segment 1. All right, the Giants head coaching update. The candidates thus far who have been linked to the Giants, who the Giants have either started to interview or are going to be interviewing. You've got Kevin Stefanski. Actually, backtracking a little bit, Mike Kafka actually had his interview already. He was like number 1 on the list since he's already in the building. So Kafka already had his interview. Kevin Stefanski, formerly of the Browns, he came into the New York, New Jersey area Tuesday night, went to dinner with the team on Tuesday night, the team's brass, I should say. Wednesday was his interview. So Stefanski, certainly in that group. Later this week, Antonio Pierce is supposed to be coming in, I think on Friday. So you've got Antonio Pierce, you've got Stefanski, also due to interview with the Giants, per multiple reports and some of my sources. Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator of the Broncos. Raheem Morris was added to the list today, formerly with the Atlanta Falcons. Cliff Kingsbury, Lou Anarumo, Mike McCarthy, and of course, John Harbaugh. Now, John Harbaugh, let me just talk about that because a lot of people are saying to me, he's got to be number 1, right? Absolutely, he goes to number 1, at least as far as I'm concerned. Harbaugh, and then it's Stefanski would be 1A. And then I might consider putting Mike McCarthy as number 2, but I'm not 100% sold on Mike McCarthy. Just little things that just don't add up for me, even though he's got quite the resume. So that being said, I want to talk about the questions that these head coaching candidates are likely going to get, and they better have good answers to them, why these questions are so important. Number 1, has to be who are going to be your coordinators. We all know, folks, if a head coach does not have good coordinators, he's dead in the water. It's that simple. Now, I realize that these head coaches can say, well, I'm going to try and get so and so and so and so. And the guys they might desire might already be under contract to another team. At which point, if the Giants wanted to finagle it a little bit, the head coach can say, okay, you know what? I want, let's say, for example, Vance Joseph. He doesn't get the job, but I want Vance Joseph to be my defensive coordinator. So I want to promote him from defensive coordinator with the Broncos and make him associate head coach or assistant head coach / defensive coordinator. So there's a way around that if the Giants want to really do that. Of course, they have to be granted permission from the teams. Any of the coordinators who are employed by other teams, they have to get permission to interview those guys. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. I think maybe, right now there are some coordinators out there. So that might necessitate waiting just a little bit just to see who else shakes free, and including, coaches whose teams get eliminated from the postseason. So coordinators is definitely a big question you want to ask. Jackson Dart and the plan to develop Jackson Dart, that's a big question that has to be answered. Jackson Dart is the future. So especially if you get a defensive-minded head coach as your head coaching candidate, you want to find out what's your plan to develop him, continue developing him. That's key. Dealing with adversity. I mean, the New York market, I don't have to tell you guys, tough market. The slightest thing gets magnified and blown up sometimes. You can't have, a queasy stomach. You have to come in here and be ready to deal with adversity. The smaller market teams, maybe they don't have it as bad as in the New York market. It can get really bad here. So that's important. Discipline and accountability, that's a big topic. That was lacking under the previous regimes. That has got to be cleaned up without questions. X's and O's philosophy, that goes without saying. And I would probably throw in, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in terms of, over the course of your career? That can define, whether a guy's going to make the same mistake or because it's all an open book. Everybody kind of knows what the coaches around the league have done, who's made what mistakes. Like, for example, in the case of Mike McCarthy, when he was with Dallas, was twice fined by the NFLPA for having violated CBA practice rules. So maybe there's a lesson there that, when McCarthy sits down and he says, well, this is what I learned in order to balance, practicing hard, but not violating the rules. So just little things like that obviously need to, be addressed by these coaches. Now, a lot of you have asked me, who do I think it's going to be? I think they want Harbaugh as the number one guy. And like I said, I think Stefanski's probably 1A. That being said, guys, it's still early in the process. I don't have a feel for it right now because not everybody has come in to interview. So we still need to kind of let this play out a little bit. I mean, as far as I know, I don't even know if John Harbaugh has been scheduled for an interview as of this recording. So we have to kind of let it play out, see what it happens, and then maybe, by next week, we'll get a better feel for it. But I will say this much, so far, you look at what the Giants have brought in or who's on the list, you've got some candidates with prior head coaching experiences. You have offensive-minded coaches, defensive-minded coaches. You've got a mix so far. And not in this mix, interestingly enough, at least so far, no college coaches. So it kind of shows you, I think, what the Giants might be thinking in terms of where their mindset is. And, there's a few other guys that aren't yet on this list. I don't know if they're going to be, but I know they were linked to the Giants, like Jeff Hafley, for example, Chris Shula. Those guys, their teams are in the playoffs. So they still might be coming when, that window opens up for those guys to be interviewed. So, bottom line, the head coaching search is well underway. Too close to call, too soon to call. It's going to be interesting. And we will, of course, keep you updated as there's anything new and where the Giants go from here. All right. Coming up next, we continue our position reviews. We're looking at the Giants 2025 unit performances, and we're going to take a look at the tight end group. That's coming up right after this. Hey, Giant fans, ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens so fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so that you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money finds subscriptions that you forgot you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly. And seeing all that you're spending on one dashboard makes it easier to understand where your money is going. I like how Rocket Money automatically builds budgets based on past spending. It keeps you on track without overthinking it. The bill alerts and spending notifications help you catch small things before they turn into big expenses. So go on and take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Hey, Giant fans, Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during happy hour always brings something new: boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sports bet partner of the NBA. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. Just coming up on the Locked On Giants YouTube channel, the Squad Show, the Giants Squad Show, will air again on Thursday. Jay Berman, Mark Collins, and myself will bring you up to date on the absolute latest. And we've got a whole bunch of other topics that we're going to go through. So do check that out. That is a live 1 hour stream, starts at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on Thursday. Drop by and chat. I respond to, comments when I can, when I'm not on the, speaking. I'll answer your questions and whatnot. But do drop by. Check it out. That's on the YouTube channel. Again, it's the Giants Squad Show at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern. All right, Giant fans, let's now get to the next unit in our unit-by-unit review. We're going to take a look at tight ends. Now, I really just kind of focused here on Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger. Chris Manhertz, good guy, decent blocker, not too much in the passing game. I wanted to focus on Bellinger and Theo Johnson. Theo Johnson was tight end number 1 this year. And just based on the stats compared to what he did versus what Bellinger did, I don't understand why Theo Johnson was moved ahead of Daniel Bellinger. Daniel Bellinger, statistically speaking, much better than Theo Johnson. Now, granted, he played about half of the snaps and had half of the targets that Theo had, but Daniel Bellinger did more with his opportunities than Theo Johnson did. So let's get into it. Theo Johnson, according to data from Pro Football Focus, was tied for first with 7 drops amongst tight ends. Now, to be fair, he was kind of in good company because Travis Kelce of the Chiefs also had 7 drops. Now, this is, by the way, this is over 100 tight ends that were in the rankings here. So Theo was tied for first place with 7 drops. He was ranked 18th in first downs with 25, tied for first on defensive pass interferences drawn. His 22 yards of DPI penalty yards tied for 6th. He had an 8.32 air yards per target, which was 5th, 60.8 reception rate, and he was, tied for 7th in target. He had 74 targets. Theo, to me, still needs some work. It's interesting. I think when they drafted him, I almost got the impression that maybe they were hoping he would turn into the next Rob Gronkowski. I don't know that he's there yet. Will he get there? Perhaps. Kid's also got to stay healthy, which is another thing. Now, Daniel Bellinger. A lot of you asked me, did I notice any difference in Bellinger from when he had that eye injury as a rookie? And the answer is no. Bellinger seems to be fine, as far as I know. And I did have a conversation with Bellinger, by the way, as one of my player interview features. Maybe I'll just plug that in. Maybe I'll do that in tomorrow's show once I get that cleaned up. But let me give you what Bellinger did in 2025. 1 drop, 15.1 yards per reception, better than what Theo Johnson had. 6.9 yards per reception. 6.9 yards after the catch per reception, better than Theo's. 9.38 air yards per target, better than what Theo had. 73.1% reception rate, better than Theo's. All right. And all of this in 26 pass targets. Folks, there's no reason. All right, with Bellinger, you can maybe make the argument that he's not as athletic. You could probably make that argument. But he's productive. And at the end of the day, his blocking was better this year, I thought. It dropped off a little bit in 2024, but Bellinger's blocking was not that bad this year. All right, it was better. He could be a tight end, maybe 1B, if you wanted to, maybe even a tight end 1. And it's just mind-blowing how the Giants have continued to either draft over him or, in the case of Darren Waller, trade over him. And here's the thing, folks. And again, I'll play the interview once we, on an upcoming episode. But Bellinger was asked, do you feel you could be a tight end 1? And he said, of course, which you would expect him to say. Now, will he be a tight end 1 with the Giants? Probably not. Will he be back with the Giants? My guess is, I would say it's 50-50. I would not be surprised if he goes elsewhere. I don't think this kid is a bad tight end. And I just don't understand why his chances dropped. I don't get it. Was this a case of, again, the head coach wanting a specific player and not being enthralled by what he got from Bellinger? I don't understand it. But here's what I do know. The tight end group as a whole, the Giants leaned on them a lot more once Malik Neighbors went down. You saw a lot more 12 personnel than you did in 2024. The tight ends as a whole, they stepped up. But in this case, I got to be honest with you. I thought Bellinger had the better season over Theo Johnson. Theo's got some work to do, and he acknowledged it, to be fair. Theo did acknowledge it. I do have audio from him, but his interview is also on YouTube if you want to check that out. I think it's the Giants put the whole interview up. But Bellinger, to me, I would try and bring him back. I wouldn't overpay, but I would definitely look to try and bring him back because I don't think he's a bad tight end. And, if you move on from Chris Manhertz, which I think they might do, And if Bellinger doesn't come back, now you've got a hole at that position that you got to fill. So I'm going to be curious to see how that works out. And it could also come down to, besides money, what does the next head coach want? Is the next head coach going to say, yeah, I'm going to run more 12 personnel, or a balance between 11 and 12 personnel? A lot of things too soon to tell as far as what they might do with free agents. But I personally would bring Bellinger back. But that's just my call. So, all right, Giant fans. Coming up next, we're going to hear from Casey Kreiter, the long snapper. This is a really, really good interview. I think you'll enjoy it. So stick around. I'll have that for you right after this. Hey, Giant fans, the draft picks positions are set, and so many teams are looking for their franchise quarterback. If you've ever wished to become a pro quarterback, getting drafted first overall by the New York Giants, well, now you can, because there's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number one draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness, to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. This is the number one quarterback career mode game on the mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. You'll sign contracts, train and upgrade yourself, build chemistry, and involve your teammates. Give your input to your GM on roster moves, and play the actual game in 2D and rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. You'll deal with the ups and downs of quarterback's career, from rookie nerves to playoff drama, and every choice shapes your journey. Ultimate QB is totally free to play, has no ads, and works 100% offline. It's perfect for when you want to sneak in a quick game or two on the go. Just head on over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special just for you guys. Use the promo code LOCKEDON in all caps in the game store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB, football legend. QB1, it's your legacy. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And before we get into the interview with Casey Kreiter, I want to thank you again for making the Locked On Giants your first listen of the day, or if you didn't make it the first listen of the day, just the simple fact that you're spending time with us, that is appreciated as well. And thank you for making Locked On the number one sports podcast network in America. If you're a true diehard New York Giants fan, the Everyday or All Access tier is built just for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with me, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, a 15% discount to the Locked On merch store, and a whole lot more. On Wednesday, I did a lunch hour special with some of my everydayers and Blue Crew community members, and we talked all things Giants. It was a great, little community building thing, and I think my everydayers enjoy it. So I know I do at any rate. But anyway, head on over to lockedonnygiants.supercast.com to join the Everydayer program and unlock all access. You can also find the link in the show notes. All right, Giant fans. Now, as promised, I have a one-on-one interview that I did with long snapper Casey Kreiter, who I call the king of the one-year contracts. Some really good stuff here. Casey is just, really, really fantastic to talk with. We talked about the rookie kicker. We talked about the kicking situation and the challenges in MetLife Stadium, just a whole bunch of things. Dane Belton came up. So without any further ado, I'm going to play that interview with Casey Kreiter right now. Teaching's going to wait.
Teaching's going to wait, for sure. Body feels great. I'll let the coaches evaluate how I played, but I'll sit back the next couple of weeks, do some self-evaluation, look at things I need to improve on. But no, I feel I hit speeds I've never hit before in my career in terms of coverage.
Yeah.
I'm lifting more weight than I've lifted in my life, so body's feeling good, and that's the biggest part.
Okay, now what's your secret?
Honestly, I got good people around me. I got good people in the strength and nutrition room, and I'll ask questions. Hey, how can we improve this? They just give me things to do, and we try it. And I had one of the newer strength coaches ask me this year, hey, why do you do your routine on Thursdays? And I just tell him, I can't tell you why. I just started doing it, and things have worked out, so I just keep doing it. I don't make it overly complicated. If it works, do it. If it doesn't work, do something different.
So I've got to ask you about working with a left-footed kicker
Yeah.
because I don't think it affects what you do so much, or maybe it does now because Jamie's on the other side. But can you just talk about that dynamic and the adjustment that you had? I mean, it was very successful from what we could see.
Yeah, I think the success starts with Ben and Jamie. Those guys doing their thing, and for me, it's just adding on to the professionalism of the whole thing. Yeah, it's a different look between your legs, and every once in a while I'd set up. It's like, well, where are they at? Oh, or just right, flip it in your head. I think personally, from someone who loves special teams, the thing that was most impressive was the tiny little details that most people don't see of, like, we spend all OTs in training camp, Jamie and I working. Every time he catches it, I want those laces not facing the kicker, facing somewhere towards the goalpost, ideally right at the goalpost, so there's less work for him to move the ball. Mm-hmm. And when you flip it, the holder, whether it was Cam or Jamie at the time, they're catching it in a different position than they've caught it probably their whole life. That might change where they catch it, and if they're catching it differently, that changes the time the ball has to spin, longer, shorter, which can affect the laces. So a lot of our work in field goals is just perfecting that distance. And then you add in the wrinkle of, the NFL's made a hard stance on, they're going to spot the ball where it's down, whether that's in between the hash marks. Mm-hmm. And when it's in between the hash marks, well, now your distance isn't 8 yards anymore. It's 8.5, it's 7.5, it's 8 1/4, 7 3/4. So again, it's just making those tiny little adjustments and being able to do it on the fly in the middle of the season with a lefty. It's not the hardest thing in the world, right, but it was a challenge, and I was super excited about how we stepped up to it.
Silly question, but how much does weather and wind and all that stuff factor into the long snap? And I'm sure on the whole it does.
Oh, yeah.
But what about the long snap?
A lot. I think that to be successful in the elements, it's all about knowing what you do well and how to adjust to different elements. MetLife is no joke. It's a different beast at all times. And I think coordinators or coaches have talked about it before. When they knocked down the old horse track, it changed big time.
Really?
The wind patterns there. I remember the season when it happened, right after it went down, or going into the next season after they knocked it down. Like Graham and I, because we had been here for both, kind of looking at each other like, this is different than before. What's going on? And we figured it out, like that track was completely gone. Right. So I think it's just more about making the adjustments, but also knowing what you do, because there's a lot of time from pregame warm-ups to maybe your first kick, and the wind can change. So it's about knowing the patterns and then adjusting to what you feel.
I didn't realize that the wind patterns changed when they knocked down the horse track.
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly how it changed, but there's a big difference. I think just in the consistency of the wind, where it's coming from. I think the whole old track almost acted like a wind block.
Interesting. Now, this is also kind of silly, but I mean, in terms of the operation, do you guys work at all in the stadium during the year, or is it once a week, or you just work in the field? How does that work, especially when you have to adjust to different and unpredictable wind patterns?
Every once in a while we will. It's kind of dependent on the kickers and punters, whether they want to, and then availability. Sometimes they're like the Jets might be playing on Thursday, so we can't get in there.
Right.
There may be an event, maybe something going on, but that's all up to those guys if they want to. And then if we decide we want to, we got to talk to the powers that control it and make sure we can get out there. So, it's nice having the stadium so close. When I was in Denver, the stadium wasn't that close. Talking to other specialists in the league that have the stadium close, I think that's pretty consistent. If they can get in there, they will. If not, you just kind of figure it out.
That's so weird. I mean, back in the old days, the kickers always worked in the stadium. Yeah. Always. Yeah. Then again, that was the old Giants Stadium. And then finally, Casey, I want to ask you about one guy on special teams who had a really, really good season, Dane Belton. Can you just talk about the year he had?
I was so happy for Dane, because obviously he's from Iowa, or he went to Iowa, or we're both Hawkeyes. I've known Dane forever, but just watching him kind of embrace his role on special teams while also having a big role on defense, it reminded me a lot of Julian Love when I first got here. Like that, Julian Love was doing the same exact thing. You want to talk about two guys with high character, great work ethic, leadership qualities that anybody would want in a locker room. Those are two guys. But to see Dane kind of run the gamut of people didn't really know who he was, kind of exploded on the scene, and now teams are game planning and scheming for him, and he's got to find a different way to win, and he did. And now teams are like, well, listen, this guy's a problem. And I foresee him being a problem for teams for a really, really long time, but couldn't be happier for him. Wish he would have got the Pro Bowl nod at special things on the NFC. Yeah. So super deserving. But it's all about his work ethic that got him there. He's a great guy too.
All right, Giant fans, that was Casey Kreiter, the long snapper. And I apologize. I should have told you that it was just audio. All these interviews that I had that I'm running for you are just audio only. But still, some good stuff here. And I hope you enjoyed that one. And if you like these player interviews, I'll have more for you. Just let me know your thoughts if you like these interviews, and I'll empty out what I have, what I was able to get from Baggy Day on Monday for you. All right. That being said, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Giants. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. I'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode. Any updates on the head coaching search? We'll do another interview if you want. We'll do a position group review. So much more still to come here on the Locked On Giants podcast. So until tomorrow, have a good night, everybody.